I had always thought of myself as a patient man. My name is Ethan, I'm 34, and I run a mid-sized construction company in New York. Life had been predictable for me. Early mornings, long site visits, late-night paperwork, but steady. Stability wasn't just a habit, it was my comfort zone. I never thought I would meet someone who would challenge not just my life, but my identity. That someone was Sophia. I met her at a charity gala hosted by one of my longtime clients. She was different from everyone I knew, confident, magnetic, and unapologetically ambitious. She worked in a tech startup and spoke about her career goals with the same intensity one spoke about profit margins and project timelines. The first few months were intoxicating. I was drawn to her energy. She seemed to mirror the kind of drive I respected in myself. But soon, the excitement came with subtle tension. One evening, Sophia invited me to dinner at her apartment. She had this habit of making everything a test, her laughter, her teasing, the faint challenge in her eyes. That night, over wine and dim lighting, she slid a folded piece of paper across the table toward me. "Read it," she said softly, almost like she expected a reaction. Curious, I opened it. My eyes scanned the list, and at first, I thought it was a joke. But the words were clear, deliberate, and demanding. "Ethan, if we are going to be together forever, here are the things you must change." The list began. The items ranged from seemingly minor personality tweaks to radical lifestyle changes. She wanted me to attend yoga classes thrice a week, stop drinking my usual scotch, learn gourmet cooking, adjust my work schedule entirely to accommodate her weekend plans, and, most shockingly, change my hiring style because she felt I was too harsh on employees. I felt a wave of disbelief. This wasn't a discussion. It was a contract she expected me to sign with my life. I leaned back, staring at the paper, my mind running through the hours, the years I had invested in building my life and company. And yet, Sophia's eyes were fixed on me, waiting for approval, for submission, for the moment I would nod and say, "Yes, I will change everything for you." I paused. I could feel the tension stretching across the room like a live wire. Every fiber of my body wanted to say something sharp, something final. But instead, I let a quiet smirk cross my face. I picked up the list, tapped it against the table, and said simply, "This isn't going to work for me." Sophia's smile faltered for the first time since I'd met her. Her eyes, which usually sparkled with mischief and control, now widened in disbelief. "What do you mean it's not going to work?" she asked, her voice sharp but tinged with panic. "These are things I need from the man I'm going to marry. Don't you want to marry me?" I leaned forward, my elbows resting on the polished oak table, and met her gaze steadily. "I want someone who accepts me as I am," I said. "Not someone who wants to rewrite me like a script for their own entertainment. I've spent my entire life building a career, a reputation, a world that makes sense to me. I'm not about to hand that over for a list of demands." Sophia's lips pressed together, as if holding back a torrent of words. She shifted in her chair and then, almost theatrically, gestured toward the paper. "It's not just a list. It's for us, for our future. You don't see how important it is to align? To grow together." I shook my head slowly. Growing together doesn't mean giving up yourself. I can respect your dreams, your routines, your quirks, but you can't expect me to abandon mine. That's not a partnership, Sophia. That's a takeover. For a long moment, silence hung between us. The clinking of cutlery from the kitchen next door was the only sound. I watched her struggle internally. Her perfect composure was cracking. I knew her type. Calculated, ambitious. A woman used to bending situations in her favor. But tonight, she faced someone unyielding, someone who would not fold to arbitrary conditions, no matter how elegantly presented. Finally, she let out a breath, sharp and almost defeated. "So what? You're just going to walk away?" Her voice wavered slightly, betraying vulnerability she never showed publicly. I pushed the list back toward her. "I'm not walking away because of you. I'm walking away from someone who can't love me for who I am. I'm walking away from a life dictated by someone else's rules. If your love comes with a manual of changes, it's not love, it's a transaction. And I don't do transactions with people I care about." Her eyes flicked down to the paper, then back at me. She looked as if she were trying to process something that didn't make sense in her structured world. The room was thick with tension, a storm barely contained, and for the first time, I sensed fear. Not the fear of me, but the fear of losing control. Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the list again, almost as if she could will it to change reality. Ethan. I thought you loved me, she whispered, the words barely audible. I shook my head gently. I do love you, Sophia. But love isn't about bending to someone else's rules. Love is respect, compromise, understanding, but it's never about erasing who you are to fit someone else's mold. She stared at me, searching for some hidden motive, some flaw she could exploit, but found none. I remained calm, unwavering, a reflection of the stability I had built over years. I could see her mind racing, trying to reconstruct the narrative she had built around us, the one where her vision of a perfect partner was unquestioned. Tonight, that narrative was breaking. I don't understand, she said finally, her voice softer, almost pleading. You could have changed. I thought you would try. We could have been perfect together. I let out a quiet laugh, not of mockery, but of disbelief. Perfect? Sophia, perfection doesn't exist in a checklist. You can demand changes, set rules, create lists, but that doesn't make someone perfect. It makes them compliant. And I am not compliant. For a moment, we just sat there. The list lay between us like a barrier, a silent testament to everything she thought would ensure control. I pushed it aside, calmly, deliberately. I'm not saying you're wrong for having your standards. I'm not saying you're bad for wanting these things. I'm saying I'm not the man you're looking for. And that's okay. But it's not okay for me to pretend otherwise. Sophia's eyes glistened with unshed tears, her composure finally crumbling. I didn't reach out, didn't soften my stance with words of compromise. Some lessons I've learned are taught not by arguing, but by standing firm. I guess I didn't realize, she started, but I cut in gently. You did realize, Sophia. You always knew exactly what you wanted. And you also knew I wasn't it. I stood, straightened my jacket, and gave her a final nod, a gesture of respect rather than anger. Take care, Sophia. I hope you find someone who fits your list perfectly. I hope I find someone who doesn't need a list to love me. And just like that, I walked out of her apartment, leaving the folded list on the table, the weight of expectations and demands behind me. That night, I didn't feel bitterness or regret. I felt clarity, an unshakable understanding that love is never measured in conditions, and respect is never earned by a checklist. For the first time in a long while, I felt free.